So the good people at Sony just dropped 3 new lenses, and these are lenses that we haven't seen in a while. These are 3 new APS-C lenses, perfect for the A6000 series and also the ZV-E10. So in this video, let's take a look at the 3 new Sony APS-C lenses, the 11mm f1.8, the 15mm f1.4, and the 10-20 f4 PZ. So there's a lot to talk about 3 separate lenses, but the good thing is there are many similarities to them. For one, their size are all below 3 inches, not including the hood. And when it comes to their weight, the 11mm is 192 grams, the 10-20 is 193 grams, and the 15mm f1.4 is just above 200 grams. Now the point of all of that is, of course, they are all very light and compact and very easy to bring around. I haven't been using the ZV-E10 because I've been using the full frame cameras, but using these lenses on the ZV-E10 kind of make me want to go more compact. Now let's talk about them individually. This is the 11mm f1.8 on the ZV-E10, and as you can see, I think this is the perfect size for APS-C lenses considering the size of the Sony APS-C bodies. Now, what I really like about this is actually a 16mm equivalent when it comes to full frame focal lengths. So this is technically a 16mm f1.8. And you know, when it comes to prime lenses, or lenses in general actually, the use for them actually varies depending on your style. For example, is this something you can use for landscapes? Definitely. It's a 16mm, and you can also use it for night photography since it's at f1.8. You can use it for group photos, really huge group photos, and you can also use it for architecture to an extent. You can use it for travel, and of course you can use it for vlogging. I actually do think this gives a really nice perspective when you're just shooting handheld vlogging with the active stabilization, just like this clip. Now when it comes to photo and video, focusing is really good and accurate, and you never really have to think about focusing, especially when you're shooting yourself or when you're shooting a vlog. Then of course IAF tracking is going to be your best friend, and the lens does keep up with that. Now this has a 55mm filter thread, so if you have lenses with that same size, then you're good. But for me, I'm gonna have to get smaller filters or filter adapters just for this one and for the other small lenses. And with such a wide angle of view, this can focus up to 0.15 meters close. So you can actually go really up close to your foreground and still get it in detail and be able to focus. Again, of course, my review is always going to be a bit biased about landscape photography. So definitely the 11mm f1.8 is something you can consider. Now this is the 15mm f1.4G. And among the 3, this is perhaps my favorite. Now, when it comes to full frame equivalent, this is going to be a 22.5mm. So technically, this is the APS-C equivalent of the 24mm f1.4 G Master. This is of course a G lens. And again, with the prime lenses, depending on your personal style, this is actually something really nice that you can use for travel, maybe a bit of environmental portraits, as well as shooting videos. Now what I'm actually excited to try this on is night photography, because it's an f1.4 lens and a 24mm equivalent, or 22.5. So this should really give me very good images of the night sky and maybe even the Milky Way if I do get a chance to shoot something like that during this trip. But yeah, about the physical aspects, we of course have the electronic zoom ring right here, and right below it is the manual aperture ring that goes from f1.4 all the way to 16 plus an extra stop for automatic. Now we have a focus hold button, an AF switch, and a switch to turn off the clicking of the apertures. So you can actually also use this for smooth video transitions when you're changing from a wide aperture to a smaller one. Now this one also comes with a 55mm filter thread and can focus from 0.2 meters. So also really close. And I particularly love the bokeh that this one gives because you can go that close at f1.4 and just blur out the background entirely. Now let's check out the third lens, and it's right inside my pocket. This is the Sony E10 to 20mm f4G with power zoom. So a lot of applications with just knowing the actual name of the product. Now this one, of course, is an ultra-wide angle zoom, which is something that you can already use if you're a landscape photographer who shoots with APS-C, and that's literally what I've been doing with this lens. Now this one also just weighs 193 grams, so it really does maintain the compactness of the camera setup. It makes use of a 62mm filter thread, which is a bit closer to the ones I use, so this is probably something that I can recommend to starting or beginning landscape photographers, travel photographers, and all of that. Now, it's not as wide open as the other lenses, but it is a constant f4. And for most landscape photographers, that's basically more than what you need because most of the time we're shooting at f8 to 11 or maybe even 16. Now it also focuses at just 0.2 meters, which means that you can really get up close to your foreground and maybe even stack your focusing. Not too much on the bokeh compared to the other two lenses because obviously this is an f4 lens. Now, what I really love about this is that it's actually something you can also use very smoothly for video because of the power zoom function. We have a really smooth slider right here that controls the movement of the zoom. So you don't really have to use the zoom ring if you want to zoom in and out while you're shooting videos. Of course, for photo, then you can just very easily use the zoom ring. Now, it also has a focus hold button just like all of the other lenses, and of course the AF and MF switch. Now the applications, of course, you can use this again for landscape, for travel, for group photos, and of course video. I do think this is one of the lenses that I would use if ever I would actually start vlogging handheld and maybe touring you around locations. And this would actually also go perfectly with the Sony shooting grip for the ZV-E10 because you can also control the power zoom on the grip itself. So that's going to make life much easier if you're zooming in and out while you're shooting videos. And there we go. These are, of course, the three new compact APS-C lenses from Sony: the 10 to 20 f4G with power zoom, the 11mm f1.8, and the Sony 15mm f1.4G. Now, if you have any questions about these lenses, I of course will be shooting with them a bit more and posting them on my social media. So if you want to see more sample photos, you can check them out on my Instagram at Nicco Valenzuela. That's Nicco Valenzuela. And if you have any questions, do leave them down below in the comment section, and I will try my best to get to you and answer as many questions as possible. And of course, thank you for making it this far into the video. If you're new to the channel, my name is Nicco Valenzuela. I am a landscape and architectural photographer, and this channel mainly shows content about landscape and architectural photography as well as the gear surrounding them. So if you're into that, do consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you for watching.